Hey everyone, welcome to episode 3 of the Card Brokers podcast. I'm TJ Card Collector Tanner, and this is Drake, SRS Cards, and we're just excited to be back. Last week we had on Ryan, and he was like a big Twitter seller, so we wanted to go a different direction this week and go for a breaker. So obviously, we went and got one of the best ones off Twitter, someone I met in person, and one of the nicest guys. And he's from Alabama, so you kind of got to be nice. But roll tide. And so introduce yourself, Blake, and let's get started.
What's up, TJ Drake? Thanks for having me. First of all, I mean, that's a hell of an audience, or hell of a group to follow with Z-Mad and Ryan, but yeah, I'll do my best. But yeah, I'm Blake Bollinger. I'm Deep Fried Breaks here in Birmingham, Alabama. Been breaking for probably four years now, full time since last October. So just kind of enjoying the ride and seeing where it takes me and having some fun with it.
Well, that's awesome. So you said you're doing this for 4 years. Did you kind of take off? I know we always mention the pandemic, and because obviously it's a hot topic or anything. Did things kind of take, like, what's the difference between your experience 3 years ago in comparison to the experience now, where you can go full time, you can do your thing? Because today is my first time full day too.
Right. Yeah.
Full time cards. Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate that. And it's a scary journey, and I know you're leaping into it too. Can you just tell us the differences and kind of like your approach to how you got to the point where you can do this as your real job?
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, you mentioned the pandemic, and it sucks like that it came to that. And, I think we all know how everything shut down and just the world flipped upside down basically overnight. I was one of the lucky ones. I mean, a lot of people in our space did very well with it. One of the things I kind of attributed to was obviously, with a shutdown, live sports kind of shut down too. And say what you will, there's kind of a gambling, people care a little bit about gambling, especially, in sports games, that kind of thing. So I honestly, I don't want to say breakers filled the void, but when there was nothing to watch on TV, there's no live action, there was nothing, people were just like, what are sports cards? And I see this is kind of coming back. So yeah, I mean, I'd been going since I guess 2018, July 2018. I've been getting in stuff for a while, and kind of the old or the whole story. Like, I think a lot of people had the same thing. They kind of found their old cards, and my mom called and said, "Hey, we're moving. Found all these old baseball cards under your bed. You just want me to throw them away?" I was like, "I don't do that. I'll look at them next time I come up." So, went back up to Gunnersville area and kind of checked them out. And I was like, "Is there even still a market for this?" And just kind of got curious and started looking around, and there was a local card shop about 30 minutes down the road. And I was like, I just want to go see. We were going to dinner somewhere nearby that night anyway. So I was like, I just want to pop in and see what baseball cards look like it was 2016. Popped in. I was like, I'll buy a couple packs. I liked Topps cards when I was a kid. Why not? So, spent like $20. Didn't really hit anything big, but I was like, just kind of slowly started getting back into it. So then I found breaks and started getting into them, and it was just kind of all over the place. And finally I was like, hey, I can do this. And I've got a sports broadcasting degree, so this is somewhat of a good use of it. So why not?
Where did you graduate from then?
Alabama. Yeah.
Oh, I got two Bama bros in here.
That's
Go
right,
Bucks.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. OH. I'm just kidding. But that's really good. That's awesome. Like, that's the same degree I have too. I have a sports industry degree, and business marketing degree. And like, obviously with sports cards was it's a more lucrative business than, being in promotions or being in marketing or sales or like cold calling and stuff like that.
Yep.
It seems like there's a lot of people in this industry with that degree too.
Yep.
And Tanner, or we have finance guys like Tanner.
Right, or future CFOs.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that, as far as going to Alabama and that experience and that connected to sports. And obviously,
Right.
You're an Alabama guy. So kind of go into that, and how did you use your degree to kind of, you said broadcasting, so you're
Right.
doing a little bit, not a broadcaster, but as a breaker, how do you manage, having that personality that's not going to rub people the wrong way like some breakers do?
Right.
And how do you kind of maintain that community?
Yeah, I try to, kind of think about it how I would want to, and I know I'm not for everyone. That's why I tell people all the time, there's a million different breakers out there. Like, I'll guide you to, that kind of thing. But Yeah, I went to Alabama. I graduated high school in '08 and went straight to Alabama. I was in business for like 2 years, just general business, and didn't really know what I wanted to do. And then I was like, I hate this. Like, I want to do sports broadcast because I always wanted to do something in the field. And I learned pretty quick that I was not going to get anywhere professionally playing sports. So the least I could do was try and talk about them. So then I switched over
Facts.
right before my junior year, and it's it was a fun experience and got a lot of that. And then it kind of sucked because we got a new guy that came in our senior year, and one of the first things he said was, most of you will never work in sports broadcasting. We're like, huh? He's like, yeah. He's like, just kind of telling you, like, that's just the way it is. Like, most of you will not use your degree the way you want to. I was like, well, I've already switched degrees once. My mom did not like that one, because it added a little bit longer. I was
Yeah.
like, I don't think that we're going to go down that road again. So I might as well finish this out. And yeah, I mean, I graduated 2012. I interned here at the local CBS station in Birmingham.
Very cool.
Yeah, and that was a really cool experience, doing a lot of college and high school stuff. I thought I was going to get something there, and then they got bought out like right before my internship ended. So they went from possibly trying to hire new people to, people in the building hoping that they kept their own jobs. So it just kind of floated around. I was actually at Merrill Lynch before, or really when
Oh,
I
impressive.
started.
Nice.
Yeah, I was doing some compliance there. And so yeah, definitely not using my sports broadcast.
Hey, you and me both, brother.
Right. So, I did that, and had been breaking on the side, and, just got, like pandemic, and we got sent home like March 14th, I think, 2020. It's been over 2 years now, which is crazy. They were like, all right, everybody needs to go work from home until we figure this thing out. You know, Actually, I was the first one because I was kind of the technology guy for our office too. They're like, you go home. They're sending everybody else home like next week. They sent me home on a Wednesday. You go home, figure out all this like remote login stuff, and because you're going to be our go-to guy starting on Monday. So you go figure it out, kind of have no ins and outs on it. So when Monday, when everybody else is trying, I'm like, oh great. So I mean, it kind of started there, or I was already breaking then, but then it just kind of became, I was doing all right. I'd fill breaks, like I was filling cases, but it would take probably a day or two, depending on the product. I always try to have the fairest prices I could, but when you're doing it a case or two a week, you're really not, you don't have the margin, or you can't have the margins that you really want to. So I was really just, I
So
mean, it wasn't.
I'm sorry to interrupt you a little
Oh,
bit
you're
too,
good.
though. Like, how does like with your when you're breaking, it's like somebody who wants to become a breaker or somebody who wants
Yeah.
to start breaking. Like, what's kind of the most important thing when you start breaking in terms of like margins, or is it the amount of boxes, or is it just cash?
Money. Yep.
That cash money.
Yep.
I
It
figured.
sucks. I wish somebody, I mean, I don't know. It was kind of different when I first started getting in. But I mean, the way to really make it big is get in with wholesalers and have stuff allocated. Every now and then you'll see some list on Twitter of like wholesale pricing of a case and stuff like that. And people are like, oh my God, breakers are getting product for $1,000 a case and selling it at $4,000 a case. I'm like, yeah, very few people are getting like full cases allocated. Like I said, I've been doing this for 4 years, and like on some Bowman stuff, I might get a full case just because that's what I've always like rebought. So I mean, ideally, if you want to get into it, you call a distributor, call a wholesaler, and say, hey, how much can I get for $1 million? That kind of thing. Like you just kind of establish it,
Yeah.
and it sucks. And me, I just, I run it from, I never really wanted to take out business loans or anything like that. So we've kind of, my wife's good at finance. She's kind of, the TJ side of things. So
Oh, nice. Yeah,
I
So-
call
then
her-
it's perfect. It's perfect,
Yeah,
then,
that's
right?
great. I call her the CFO. So she, kind of manages everything. We run it all off cards, and I mean, it's nice to be able to do that, but at the same time, it is kind of tough because you'd love to just go take out 100 grand, 200 grand and go dump it all on product. But then, it helps your spend, but at the same time, it's, I
So
don't
it's
know.
risky, right? It's just like
It
it's
is,
a
yeah.
riskier approach. Gotcha.
So-
You don't know if overnight people are going to change their opinion on, I don't know, like Bowman or time, I mean, not overnight, but it's just, you don't want to be stuck with $100,000 stuff that you necessarily can't move and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
So
So what's the most And I think this is a big thing with when we first got into it, like you said, during the pandemic, everything blew up. It was really easy to feel anything. But what's
Mhm.
some products that you kind of target? What's your favorite thing to break, aside from margins and everything, but just to see the hits?
Yeah.
And then kind of go a little further and tell us like maybe a couple moments that you've had in your time breaking where you open something, you're like, damn, I wish I'd have just personal ripped this.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Bowman was kind of the go-to from when we first started breaking. And that was to me, I mean, I do mostly baseball. I did some football today, but for the most part, 95% baseball. And so like when I was breaking, Bowman was always kind of the best return on investment kind of thing. So we not necessarily that's what it's all about, but if you're ripping expensive stuff, you want to be able to hit some nice stuff in return. So yeah, it kind of started. If there wasn't a new release, I would quote unquote fill the void with Bowman. And so we do a lot of that. Draft, Chrome, whatever. I mean, there's definitely been some stuff. I always, I want to rep everything, and thankfully, my wife is money sound, or we would have real problems because we just like, and I always people are all the time like, hey, why don't you do like some half cases or some mixers or stuff like that? I'm like, because if stuff is not sealed in a case,
Mm-hmm.
I will open it. And then I start running into problems.
So and is that an issue too that you run into? Do you buy boxes like that aren't in the cases? Like, or you just
um
exclusively buy cases as a breaker? Because I know
no,
some
I
people get
buy
into it. They buy retail, they rip retail for breaks and stuff like that. Is that like more of an approach you take, or do you like going just with cases to be safe?
a little bit of both, I guess. Like I
Okay.
buy like I've got some finest flashbacks from 2020 over here. We're gonna do tomorrow. I just kind of am always looking for like I don't want to say the best deal, but if like I see something that I think is a good sell or I can rip it, like if I'm going out to get something just specifically to break, like I need something like okay, I don't have anything for later in the week. It's probably going to be a case just because I'm weird about like today, I did this football random mixer and it was just loose boxes and people are like, hey, won't you do a PYT? I'm like, no, because I don't know what's already been hit. I don't know if a
Mm-hmm.
Burrow, RPA or whatever was pulled the box before. That makes it less
I like
likely
that. I
going to
like that
be
a
pulled
lot.
in this. Yeah. And so I don't know, like it's not like total rule of thumb or anything, but for the most part, if I'm doing a bigger break like that, I'd like if I'm doing a PYT at least, I want it to be a sealed case for the most part. I mean, there's definitely some
I,
different
I
different circumstances, but
I
you
like
just
how
don't
you
know
do that
what's
because
already
it
been
feels
hit.
like, yeah, it feels like protection for the
Right,
buyer too. So like it gives people a reason to come to you if you're
right,
looking out for everybody. And I like that a lot. Like cases, I usually try to rip from people who open cases because just to keep myself safe, because there are a lot of people that do some shady stuff out there. And if you buy
right,
the case or they rip the case, I feel as a buyer, it's more like if you do that for me, I feel like there's more attention that can come your way because of that.
right. Yeah, I mean, there's no way to, like loose boxes and stuff. There's no way to make sure, but for the most part, that's one of the main reasons. Yeah, kind of,
Good.
you don't know. Hey, what if the case hit's already been pulled? What if that is the chase? And what if,
Mm-hmm.
especially with stuff like absolute, like I said, I don't do a ton of football, but
Mhm.
like absolute,
Yep.
it's basically a kaboom or bust. I mean, not all
Yeah.
the way, but for the most part. And say I get a case to open, periodically, box to box, and I open one for myself, and it happens to have the kaboom in it. Then, do I tell people? Do I, like?
Exactly.
Do I discount the next 11 boxes because the case hit? I mean, you could still hit other stuff, of course, but
Yeah.
the
But you're
chaser,
ripping, yeah, you're ripping playoff for that,
right?
like you said, for that kaboom. So,
Yeah,
like,
Yeah.
if I knew you hit that kaboom before, it was like, would I go and chase that? Me personally, no, but there are people out there who do like to
right.
just rip any boxes and they have to collect and fill those binders out, like Ryan said last week. And
Yeah.
so, like, you're also providing a space for those people too, which is
Oh
really
yeah.
cool.
Yeah. I mean, I've got anytime I do a PYT, I've got a handful of guys that no matter the product, no matter what, they're going to grab the Tigers, they're going to grab the
Mm-hmm.
whoever they collect. Like they just want to chase their guys. They could have the worst checklist in the product, and it doesn't matter. They're this the first team sold because they want to get their guys. And
Mm-hmm.
I kind of was like that when I first got back into it, but now I'm kind of more like I don't I know TJ's kind of shifted some to doing some Alabama stuff, and like I have a nice PC of some guys, but it's not just that. Like I I don't ever just have binders full of like Red Sox or Alabama stuff or anything. So
Do you invest? Do you invest in cards then?
yeah, I try. I mean, I don't, you know, I guess if you're like solely investing, like vintage is probably the safest route and stuff. And, like I don't do like much vintage just because to me that's a whole nother rabbit hole I don't want to get down. But when I first got back into it, I started like Mike Trout was one of my favorite guys to watch. So I started buying up some nice Trout stuff, and I was like, yeah, worst comes to worst, he's a pretty safe investment, if you will. So yeah, like guys like that, I will. Luis Robert was another one I kind of am into a lot. I watched him here with the Barons and the minor leagues here in Birmingham, and I just remember seeing this kid. I'm like, damn, this kid's gonna be good. So I mean, not that it was a huge secret by any means at all. He was already a top 100 prospect, but I don't think he was like top 25 or whatever. And I was like, yeah, I've seen a lot of guys come through here, and I haven't seen anyone quite like this. So kind of heavily invested in him, if you will. Yeah, I mean, not a ton of just going out just for okay, I think this card is $100 now, and with the season I think he's going to have, it'll be a $200 card at the end of the year or anything like that. But I do, kind of find some value placed here and there.
And kind of go on and we talked about this earlier about breaking, and you said you obviously invest in players. Do you ever have you ever really like pulled a card and it just been stuck in your head? And do you have any like memories specifically of specific cards you pulled in your?
People know, Griffey's and Tuas, they don't ship around here. That's always but I haven't quite gotten to that card yet. No, there's not a card out there, but yeah, there's definitely. I mean, I'll offer to buy stuff from guys. I've bought, cards from people right after the break before. I think one of the first times we hit, speaking of Luis Robert, we hit like a mega box auto out of the little Target things from him a couple of years ago. And I offered, I told him, I was like, don't feel pressure whatsoever. It's not like I'm not going to ship your card if you don't sell it to me. I'm just, here's kind of a fair market value offer for it. If you don't collect them, if you do,
yeah,
tell me to kiss off and don't worry about it. But like, yeah, I mean, there are definitely some cards. Like a couple of weeks ago, we did a 2020 Bowman and put Bobby Witt gold shimmer auto. I mean, it wasn't as crazy because I probably would have never ripped a full case of 2020 Bowman on my own. But yeah, there's been some like loose boxes. We pulled some crazy stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, if it's something, I tell guys all the time, I'll pay you, friends and family or Venmo cash, whatever, you don't have to worry about shipping it back and forth. I'll give you a fair value for it. But yeah, I mean, there's always some that you're kind of like, wish I would have just ripped that one myself.
Yeah. And how is it being in Birmingham? Because I know like I went to your LCS over there, and it's pretty good. But how is it outside of that? And like being in such kind of, it's not the biggest card market from what I could tell.
No.
So how is it like? I know in Florida I can drive to Tampa or I can drive to Jacksonville the first, Saturday. So how is Alabama as a market, and how do you kind of get around that, going to shows, or if you go to shows, or just what's your experience in that?
Yeah, it's not great, honestly. Like Birmingham, especially. Birmingham's, the biggest city in Alabama. Actually, Huntsville just passed them in population, but Birmingham's kind of central. Used to be the capital. Like Birmingham's the big city of Alabama. And it is kind of shocking that there's just not a lot of card representation. Like, yeah, I think you went to All-Star Trustful. That's like 30 minutes from my house, which is kind of close to downtown Birmingham. And, there's another one in Chelsea, Chris Monroe. I have not been to the shop yet, but he's big on Twitter. And it's, same thing, like 30 minutes from downtown Birmingham. Huntsville's kind of got more of a market just because from what I hear, you kind of attract the Nashville and Tennessee crowd.
Yeah.
And there's a show in Scottsboro, which is kind of North Alabama as well, that's held every quarter. I've been to it a couple of times. It's a pretty good show. It's more low end. I did a show here in Fultondale, which is again right outside of, probably 20 minutes outside of Birmingham, in December. And I loaded up my big display case and probably had like $40,000 worth of stuff, and might have sold $2,000 worth of stuff, most of it being like dollar bin stuff, which again, it was around Christmas, and I don't really know how to attribute it to it, but yeah, there's not there's a couple of big, I don't say big players, but like some guys that have kind of been in cards forever around here that still go to all the shows, go to national, go to all the.
I mean, those are players. What are you talking about? We're all
Yeah.
athletes here, right?
Right. Yeah,
Big
exactly.
players.
Yeah.
Let's go.
And like I've talked to them about organizing a show here. There's a local brewery, and they have like outdoor stuff from time to time. They have like an art show every summer, or not even, like a couple times a summer, where it's kind of out in the walkway and people are just kind of coming and going. And I'm like, how cool would it be to have like a sports card show set up out here? People grab a beer, and if nothing else, you've got 26, 27-year-old guys that might not have collected and be like, I'm 6 beers deep. Let me go see what sports cards are talking about over here.
Exactly. There you go.
And I've talked to guys about it, and they're just like, no. They're like, you won't get any attendance. I'm like, why? And they're like, just this market. And so at some point, I'm going to do it. Probably.
I think you could do it ASAP. Tweet it out, and like, I guarantee people from all over the state and stuff would come too, because Columbus has a bunch of shows always. I'm like right in the hub. Like I go to Card Collector too. There's like 5 different card shops here in Columbus. He's in Grove City, but like I'm a short 15 minutes away. I think you could go and you could have that right now, realistically, and you could have a great show, and just the marketing alone that you could do and teach people about your breaks and like even what breaking is. Cause like I've gotten my hometown homies into breaking, and I'm not a breaker, but like we got into it because of gambling, just like you said. Like I'm wearing a Caesars hat, sports.
Right.
I just would like, so like all my friends are degenerates in that way, and they love gambling like that. And I've always said that cards is a better version of gambling because
it is
something in return.
Because you're almost always going to get at least something. It might not be much, but
yeah, sometimes it's just like paperweights that you might have to file away and never look at again, or use them as like shipping material. You know what I mean? It's like, oh my gosh.
Dude, I do that though. I file those cards away, and I was going through some stuff earlier, and I was like, oh, there's an old 2016 Tom Brady refraction. I looked it up, and it's like $60 now, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, so it's always good to have those kind of things too.
Yeah,
which a lot can be accredited to me breaking for all of 2019 and 2020. So
that was I had some stuff like 2018 Bowman. I was ripping for Luis Robert a couple of years ago. I had a good deal. Like I could get retail cases pretty easy. Like the retail boxes. I think I did 2 cases of them, and kind of going back through not long ago when we moved, I found some. I'm like, yeah, okay, like. Jose Atalis Garcia is a guy there's a couple that don't suck that did at the time. So but I don't have any huge wins like that.
So I gotta ask you. So I know I'm an Alabama guy, and Drake is the Alabama that can't win championship much. No. And so how was it going to Alabama? I think you were there for how many? You went 2009, 2011 championships, and 2012, right?
Yeah.
So you were there for 3 championships.
Yeah, it was wild. I grew up like my parents had season tickets, and so me and Dad would always go. And I always tell a story like there's a Burger King like right by our house, and so when we leave from Albertville, which is like 2 hours north of Tuscaloosa, we'd pull out and usually stop at Burger King for breakfast, and I always be like, well, are we gonna win today? Like, probably not, but it was always, you go back and look at like the Alabama teams from when I was younger, and it was almost every year 6-6, and then if
I don't remember days like that. I don't remember days like that as a Buckeye fan. I'm just kidding.
We could play a 7th grade flag football team, and it'd be a 3-point game, or we could play the 85 Bears.
Brody Croyle slinging the pill. Yeah.
It was like, or you play the 85 Bears reincarnated, and it'd be a 6-point game. Like, it's just always the level of the competition. So like, when I got there, of course I knew about Saban and, followed football and was ecstatic. But no one expected anything like this. It was still just like, maybe we'll get a championship or 2. And I went to the first one. I guess I went to all 3 when I was in college. I went.
Nice.
Oh, dang.
Hey, that's how was that? Like, what year did you say you graduated again?
2012. Yeah.
2012. So. Okay. So yeah, you went in honestly the greatest run that Alabama's had realistically, with Heisman winners, Ingram, even Trent Richardson. You even had a couple of good quarterbacks there in a row with just seeing that success like in college. And like, were you around the athletic department? Did you have internship? Because like I interned for Ohio State athletics, and like I was promotion, and I did stuff like that for like the football team when I was in college. So like I was a part of basically the 2014 like national championship too.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Like just because I was a right, and I was a freshman, and so like I got to see that run as a freshman in college, and then it made me fall in love with sports even more.
I don't want to talk about it.
I knew I had that 85 yards through the heart of the South. Like that's like what they call that run that Zeke had up here. And there's like that was part of the promotion. That was part of everything else. So like at Alabama, did you kind of learn a lot of those like ideas in sports broadcasting, like with doing your break? How do you apply what you learned in school to like what you do right now?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and act like I was as involved as I probably should have been. And that might've been one of the reasons, like I didn't come out with a lot of degree or like with a lot of opportunities in my field. I liked to have a good time when I was in college, and it was
same here. This is why I'm working cards now, because my opportunity was probably like your opportunities.
It was like the whole thing with broadcasting in Alabama was like you could be involved. Like, I mean, obviously they weren't gonna let you run the camera or anything, but like if you wanted to, like, you could be involved, like, kind of under the stadium or doing this. And it was like, I was in a fraternity, and I was like, I'd rather go drink with my brothers and go to the game and, yell obscenities at the other players instead of, advancing myself, which, in retrospect probably wasn't the best idea. But at the same time,
fraternities connections. You made all the connections you needed, right?
You don't get those years back. So, yeah, I mean, it was a hell of a run. I mean, I was still around, like did some stuff. I grew up going to a bunch of games and, was friends with some of the guys on the team, nothing, crazy, but, it was just like, still kind of have some connections and have some.
You don't want to name drop?
Nah, I mean, it wasn't anybody crazy. But like, had some, me and Mark Ingram, we were, no, I'm kidding.
That is funny. That is funny, bro.
But no, I mean, just, it's nice to still have some, I don't want to say insider info, but like, so you hear some
you're close to the program.
It's like, that's not true. Or yeah, that's definitely true kind of thing. So
yeah, I'm starting to tap into that a little bit. I'm in a little private group. I don't want to drop any names, but I'm in a few private groups with some Alabama people, and you kind of get some nuggets in there. And I'm just glad to know I'm not the only one that hated Jalen Hurts. So,
that's my boy.
And it was a great, work. It was just, I went to some practices that year, to his freshman year, and like Jalen was still the starter. And it was just like, I would leave practice and like, oh my God, why is Tua not playing? Why is this kid from Hawaii not like,
that's apparently that's what led Dable to leave so quickly, because Saban wouldn't let him replace, Jalen with Tua, through to his freshman year. So
yeah, I mean, that's tough. It's tough to pull a guy, everybody always said 26-2 as a starter. It's tough to pull that guy from the starting role, but it's like, you kind of have a cheat code sitting on the bench that, and it's kind of funny how they've all progressed. You got basically every quarterback since then, even Jalen, like, is in the league. And
yeah.
So and that's the most impressive thing for me, like about Alabama's football program. And like, as an Ohio State fan, obviously I'm going to troll Alabama, but I really think Alabama is a program like way above everybody else, strictly because of like Nick Saban, the way he set things up, and just like the school itself, like it's an NFL caliber school. That's where people want to go if they want to get to the league. And I feel like Ohio State, they share that, but like Saban wins championships. So like, I'm super impressed with that program overall, and their marketing too.
And I've got to say, I mean, that 2014 year, if we'd had any other linebacker outside of Trey Priest, we would have won that game. So
yeah, that team was, I saw something on that a couple months ago, and it was just like, that was one of the more incredible runs. It's like Braxton gets hurt he got hurt preseason, right?
Or the year before. Was it the year before?
I think Braxton got hurt preseason. And who was the
JT Barrett.
JT Barrett, yeah. And then he gets hurt, and then Cardell comes in. They go like 59-0 on Wisconsin.
Yeah, I was at that Big Ten championship game where they won 59-0 and it was amazing.
Insane.
So
I remember everybody's like, Alabama's playing a third stringer. Don't get saving a month to prepare for a third stringer.
Then he ran over Minka.
Yeah, I'm like, this dude is not your average third stringer though. Like, he makes throws that like Aaron Rodgers and like one other dude on the planet can make. He also makes terrible throws that, like a couple plays later, but like he also can make some throws that
Right.
he probably still can. But yeah, and him and Zeke, and it was just, that was.
So we don't have a lot of time left here, because I have a meeting like with another like sports card stuff, and I want to make sure we talk about your PC. Tanner, do you want to take this over? Just so like we want to see your PC cards. We want to kind of see what you collect, see what you invest. Did you bring anything or anything in particular that you wanted to mention that you've collected? Because you said vintage and stuff like that. What is something personal that you like that you would advise other people to also buy into?
Well, I'm a Red Sox guy. You see the Ortiz. Big David Ortiz guy. It used to be nice to kind of be able to get some stuff there, because he was, but he was a DH, so like he's a little underappreciated. So I had some really nice David Ortiz stuff. There's another guy that's just got like every Grell card out there of him. But with, I guess, the Hall of Fame stuff in him, it's kind of become a little bit unattainable. Tua is kind of the football one, and really kind of probably the guy I've sunk the most into, just because he was the first guy. Like, I mean, I don't want to say I discovered Tua. Obviously, I did not, but like I was going to practices when he was riding the bench his freshman year. I'm like, this is maddening. Why is this kid not playing? Like, and the whole year, I'm like, why put Tua in? I always tell people I invented the hashtag Tua time. I don't know if that's real or not, but
that's funny.
People are like, no, you can't put this kid in. He's a freshman. Like, I don't care. Like, he's unreal. And so they did it, and then comes into the Georgia game, and kind of had some unfortunate luck, and I still really believe in him, just because his attitude and the throws he can make. Everybody wants to kind of pigeonhole him as a slant boy and all that, but like, it's just he's kind of he was the first guy. Like, quarterback's obviously the glamour position. It's the position I grew up wanting to play, and never played, but like backyard football, always played quarterback. Creature character on NCAA 14, always a quarterback, and so he was the first quarterback we had that, like, AJ, but everybody mostly knew like that dude's not, best case scenario, he's Andy Dalton 2.0.
People don't understand what Tua was for Alabama. We went into games with Greg McElroy and John Parker Wilson.
Right.
And that's who I grew up on. And it was like, when we got AJ, it was different, but we kind of knew, like you said, and Tua was our first guy I think you can honestly watch, because I don't think anyone watched Jalen Hurts and goes, this is a first round draft pick.
No,
but for a lot of people, I mean,
it was taken for Tua.
Yeah, people were taken for Tua, and people don't understand, like, Joe Burrow won, that national championship and had the prolific offense. Alabama's offensive numbers were damn close until Tua broke his ankle. Right. And I mean, he played LSU on one leg, and like it was just an emotional roller coaster with Tua those years. So definitely wanted to end on something like that. Yeah. And I appreciate you coming on. I mean, it was a great talk, and it's a conversation that not enough people have heard. I don't hear breakers. I mean, outside of the loud yelling, a lot of them do, and the grunting and stuff. But from what I know, you're pretty good around that area too.
Yeah, so. I'm not gonna sit here, like I said, kind of brought up the Bobby Witt from a couple of weeks ago. Like, that's probably a $10,000-$20,000 card. I yelled a little bit.
Of course.
I woke the dog up. He was asleep over here.
Oh, poor puppy.
The beanbag chair, but I'm not gonna do that for your typical $10 auto that some guys do.
Yes.
My thing is, and I tell people all the time, it's like, if something sucks, I'm gonna tell you it sucks. I'm not gonna sit there at the end of the break and be like, that wasn't that bad. We did Heritage a couple weeks ago, and it's just like, I just like, people were giving me hell. Like, I think they were kind of enjoying it, but I was just so like, wanted to punch a hole in the wall. And I'm like, not that kind of person. It was just like, can this get over? Like, the air conditioner, I had a guy come in like to help put in a unit. And I was like, well, do you want to do the rest of this? He was like, what? I'm like, I can't, I got to get away from this stuff. So like, that's kind of my whole thing. Like, I'll tell you, like, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. If something's not good, I'll tell you it's not good. I'll try to help make up for it a little bit. And I'm gonna get excited about the good stuff though. Like, that's the fun of it.
As you should, man. That's what brings people back. So once again, I appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely.
And dude, I wish you the absolute best. So shout out to the
thank you very much, guys, and same to y'all. And
it's nice to meet you, brother.
Absolutely.
All right. Take care.